Welcome. We're so grateful and honored to have you all here. My name is Jo Giudice, and I'm the director of the Dallas Public Library. And I just overheard my friend Harriet just a few minutes ago saying it took us 40 years to get this done. I'm not happy about that, but at any rate, this is a wonderful evening for us to celebrate Juanita Craft and the collection that lives here now at the Dallas Public Library. We first established the Juanita Craft collection in 1973, and it was formalized in 1983 by Juanita Craft herself, wanting her archives to live here at the Dallas Public Library so it would be accessible to the public and researchers. So we're incredibly grateful for her generosity and for her foresight for seeing that her legacy needed to be viewed by the public and be available for researchers. So without further ado, we have some videos to show you tonight. So I'm going to kick off the first one, Jordan.
She was the only one here who came near to Martin Luther King, whose interests went beyond his own people, but went beyond the protest in the Vietnam War, in the sense that he was a liberating person. Juanita Craft's greatness is that she is a liberating person for all people. And that kind of personality is very rare. She's a very rare person. She was not interested in the outer forms of protest. She had an inner conviction which had even an understanding of those who opposed her. That's the important thing about her. If it isn't too trite, she really is a good Christian, in the sense that she even loved her enemies. She was, if I may put it, and I hope people won't be disturbed by it, she is one of the most genuine liberals that I know. By liberal, I use that term in its original meaning. She believed in liberating everybody, not only blacks, but anybody else, the poor. She could get just as much concerned with poverty, whether it was amongst the blacks or amongst the Chicanos or the whites. It didn't matter. That's why I said to you, she's probably the most unusual woman I've known, because while she had the black concern, it was only part of the larger liberating spirit that she has.
Texas, and it was a case that Mr. Craft filed called Atkins versus Matthews. It was a case that opened the door for us to go to basically to go to the white schools, white colleges in the state of Texas. And, I used to sit and talk with Miss Craft. And she was fascinating just to talk about the fact that she would travel all over the state of Texas. You can imagine going into places like Pecos, Texas, and all out through West Texas, registered people to join the NAACP, which at that time was the most radical organization in the state of Texas, in the country, in America. And, she'd tell you about all these places she went into, but she was also very careful to tell you that she was a nice, sweet little old lady, but she had a nice, big, shiny pistol in her purse. So, like I say, I benefited from her work. I grew up in a place called Hamilton Park, which was part of her work for us to get housing, decent housing. So I do owe Ms. Craft a debt of gratitude because, she was always interested in the youth. And I was telling you about my cousin, Tommy Teal, who Ms. Craft sent him to Washington, D.C. in 1956 to organize the first March on Washington. They talk about March of 1963, but that was the second march. And Ms. Craft sent her to represent her. And a lot of people, they talk about the Montgomery bus boycott. But that Montgomery bus boycott was planned in Ms. Craft's house. It wasn't planned in Montgomery, Alabama. And so, we give people a lot of credit, but, Ms. Craft was a soldier from beginning to end. And I wish that it was something that could spark us to where we could turn out soldiers like today. I see our former Congresswoman here. Ms. Craft was the first Black woman to vote in Dallas County. And she encouraged people to vote. I was in the picket line, what was that, 9th grade, a place called a Piccadilly, downtown here. I first tasted that, but like I said, I had a cousin who had been involved for years, Early B. Teal and Marlene Teal. And so, it wasn't, being involved wasn't new to my family. My family's been in Dallas since 1847. And so we've seen Dallas come a long ways. But like they say, we've come a long ways, but we got a long ways to go to make Dallas the city that it could be. And I see China's pointing at me over
Like the
there.
Oscars.
All right, and so we're going to show the video. And I just want to say that Ms. Craft, I look out here and I still see people who are involved, because at one time I couldn't come to the library. Library Saturday. Couldn't come in the library. I used to slip in and had a lady named Miss Essie Reed to hold the door open for me to slip into the Dallas Public Library because, they saw this day coming. See, and I saw it coming. So we want to thank Ms. Craft and all of us soldiers who made it possible for us to have the privilege that we have today. Thank you, Ms. Craft.
Are you saying that you never ever in the course of your life hate other people for their views?
No, you take the Ku Klux Klan, I don't hate them. I feel sorry for those people. I don't hate people that have denied me rights that I'm supposed to have. But I say that if any man stands and swears by the Holy Bible to uphold the Constitution of this country and doesn't do it, he's doing himself a disservice. I'm proud that I didn't give up. That's one thing. I'm proud that I have not given up. I have kept the faith. I still believe that someday that somebody's going to say, well, that old woman was a pretty good woman after all. And I'm glad that I feel like that Dallas has been a better city because of some of my work here. I could have done some things for myself, and I chose to do it for other people. In the political arena, everybody thinks you should do everything. I have had calls here at night when I was on the city council, 1 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. I've gotten up and gone down to the jail at 3:30 in the morning trying to help somebody. I didn't know what to do, but all I was criticized for doing it. I said, I'm representing these people, and if they feel that they need me, I'm going to do it. Some of the decisions that I made when I was on the council, they were not to the liking of everybody. And that was the thing that was interesting to me. I did what I thought was the best for the city of Dallas, not any special group. Now, that may sound foolish to some people, but my mother went to the grave to bring me here. Left me a big, strapping, healthy youngster. She's not here to see me. She's not here to be a part of this birthday party. Neither is my father. But the community is my family.
Now, please welcome Craft Kid, Patricia Perez.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
So I'm going to tell you a story, and I've named the story Mrs. Kraft, Aunt Ruby, and the Catcher in the Rye. The summer of '68, I got a hold to a copy of The Catcher in the Rye. And for those of you who are familiar with that book, you know what it entailed. A lot of expletives. A lot of our parents didn't understand it, didn't understand why we wanted to read it. Well, unfortunately for me, my aunt got hold of it. My aunt and Mrs. Kraft were really good friends. And because when she couldn't understand things, she would go to Mrs. Kraft, who had this vast understanding of everything. She had no children, but she understood us better than a lot of our parents did. So we went up to Mrs. Kraft's, we sat back there in the little house. Miss Kraft did not, she may have known the book, but I'm sure she hadn't read it. And my aunt handed it to her, and she would read a little bit and then look up at me over those glasses, read a little bit more, and look up at me over those glasses. And we talked, my aunt talked, I talked, and Mrs. Kraft talked. And the resolution was this. Mrs. Kraft said to my aunt, you may not always be glad about what she reads, but make sure you're always glad that she reads.
Good point. Good story. I said it better myself. Please welcome to the podium, Chair of the Friends of the 180 Craft House and Museum, Candace Thompson.
Yeah, this. All right, so I'm not as eloquent as everyone else, able to rattle off their stories, but so good evening, good people. First and foremost, I just want to give thanks. I want to, give thanks to our ancestors who are here as witnesses for this day, and for those whose shoulders that we stand upon. I want to say thank you to the Kraft Foundation and to the Dallas Public Library for making Mrs. Kraft's desire a reality. And even if it was 40 years in the making, we're here. This day is truly a day of joy, celebration, and recognition. I want to say a special thank you to the NAACP, who recruited, equipped, and supported Mrs. Kraft's work across the state of Texas and this great nation. Thank you to our comrades in this work, the State Fair of Texas, the City of Dallas Office of Culture and Arts and Culture, particularly.
Mr. Wilson, now clear. Have a nice evening.
Particularly to Nikki Christmas, John Spriggins, and to Kendall Ferguson for their tireless efforts and work with us. To our dear friends with the Junior League, the initial steering committee, and to the esteemed board members of the Friends of Juanita Craft. Just a heart full of gratitude for everyone. And, so I'm grateful for the opportunity to stand before you this day. I did not have the opportunity to meet and know Mrs. Craft personally. However, I do have the pleasure of building relationship with those who did have the opportunity to know her. And I'm grateful for Ms. Perez and her consistent testimonies, as well as Chandler Vaughn. However, Mrs. Craft's legacy lives on through our collective focus and mission to inspire bold civic engagement globally, and by preserving and amplifying her life and legacy of human rights through transformational education. I'm reminded of the poem by Dr. Maya Angelou, and I'll share her words. And maybe it resonates with you. It says, lying, thinking last night how to find my soul a home where the water is not thirsty and bread loaf is not stone. I came up with one thing, and I don't believe that I'm wrong, that nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. There are some millionaires with money that they can't use. Their wives run around like banshees, and their children sing the blues. They've got expensive doctors to cure their hearts of stone, but nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone. Nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Now, if you listen closely, I'll tell you what I know. Storm clouds are gathering and the wind is gonna blow. The race of man is suffering and I can hear the moan. Because nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone. Nobody can make it out here alone. It is a false narrative to believe that Mrs. Craft's, resided in the shadows or that she was quiet. Her legacy is evidence of a life dedicated to making a difference by taking a stand to initiate change and building up leaders. A good leader builds up others and does not seek to hold the spotlight. A good leader knows and has an intimate understanding that we cannot make it out here alone. Like a good steward of her resources, Mrs. Craft regularly made timely deposits into the lives of young people all across the state of Texas and across the nation. Of her time, her talents, her words of encouragement, and her wisdom. Today marks another step in the right direction of honoring her legacy, acknowledging the role and importance of history, and sharing the truth. We must tell the whole truth of the struggle of civil rights in this country, in this state, and in this city. Mrs. Craft's accomplishments are in great part to her parents and the leaders who came before her, those who poured life and shared wisdom with her by blazing the trail, modeling what it means to live a life of dignity, integrity, committed to a cause greater than one's self. She could see all of us and that our collective struggle was one struggle, and that would help us to continue to overcoming systemic social injustices. We, the Friends of Juanita Craft Civil Rights House, we are committed to co-laboring with you to continue to inspiring the next generation of civically engaged leaders. Our efforts are to collaborate with the city, the Office of Arts and Culture, with programming, fundraising support, attracting an audience, achieving museum certification status, and to ultimately getting Mrs. Craft's home listed on the Civil Rights Trail for her tireless work, efforts, and contributions. And that would be the first for the state of Texas. We look forward to your presence at the museum, which will be reopening later in the month of May. And we hope that you will be transformed from the moment that you cross over the threshold of her door. and that you will not leave as the same person, but you will leave as a fellow craft kid. Thank you.
Next, please welcome my colleague, the Director of the Office of Arts and Culture, Martine Philippi.
Hey there, it's so good to see such a beautiful crowd here, uplifting this very special day. I'm in partnership with the Public Library. Our Office of Arts and Culture is excited, as Candace mentioned, to partner and celebrate Mrs. Craft's legacy in the opening of the Juanita J. Craft Civil Rights House. And we do hope that you all will be there with us on May 20th. So please do save that date, 11 a.m. We do hope to see you out there. And I stand here on behalf of all of my colleagues with the city to share with you that we will continue to uplift and uphold Mrs. Craft's legacy. We have a citywide commitment that is related to our racial equity plan to continue to celebrate and commemorate the folks who have come before us, who have blazed these paths and opened these doors and supported building bridges and building connections across our community. I do hope that you'll not only visit the reading room, but that you will visit this craft house and really celebrate her legacy, especially her commitment to the youth. You'll find that the programming that you planned, Kendall's here, and we have other folks in our department who are here. We're really going to focus on the youth, obviously in following her footsteps, but to ensure that we are setting up our youth to serve as leaders, to serve as trailblazers, to be disruptors, and to do that in a very, very respectful way. Again, my name is Martine, and if you have any questions about the craft house opening, please see some of our staff members. Benjamin is here, Kendall's around, Lynn is here, our conservators are here, the folks who are making sure that all of the displays are up to par so that you can engage with them. And we really want to continue to keep this conversation open, maintain this open line of communication so that you're aware of every step of the way what's transpiring with Mrs. Craft's archives, with her items and her artifacts that we are so ready to share with you. Thank you all for coming in support of this dedication.
Next, please welcome the immediate past chair of the Board of Directors of the State Fair of Texas, Gina Norris.
Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to be here. I'm just really honored to be included in this event, renaming one of these signature rooms in the Dallas Public Library system and recognizing Mrs. Craft's impact on civil rights on a national scale. Here at home, Juanita Craft is best known for organizing student protests against segregation at the State Fair of Texas. Less known are the personal relationships she forged, resulting in lasting change at the fair. Personally, I'm grateful that Juanita Craft never gave up on the State Fair. She knew the fair's disgrace and she knew our promise. Her memory is our touchstone as we strive to fulfill that promise, becoming a good neighbor in her beloved South Dallas. I think Mrs. Craft would be delighted to see what the fair is doing today. She was the inspiration for renaming our scholarship program. Last year, the fair awarded nearly 500,000 scholarships to 77 graduates of 6 DISD schools surrounding Fair Park in Mrs. Craft's name. Last year, the fair's community grant program surpassed more than $3.5 million given to deserving nonprofits in our area, with 576,000 last year alone to 83 organizations. In 2018, the fair created the Juanita Craft Humanitarian Awards. We host and sponsor during the fair each year an event to honor individuals who really emulate Mrs. Craft. She modeled for her craft kids the value of developing life skills, and she had a joy in gardening. Likewise, we created Big Tex Urban Farms. It's located in Fair Park. It's in its 7th year and provides fresh produce year-round to nonprofits in our neighborhood. It last year reached a milestone of 1 million servings. Finally, the State Fair has been a significant donor to the Craft House restoration and supported the Friends Group in its annual Juanita Craft birthday celebration. It's not just by happenstance that in the aggregate, the State Fair has become a large donor to the craft legacy. Juanita Craft's activism changed the course of the State Fair of Texas. We're grateful to Juanita Craft for never giving up on us, and I'm grateful to this group of leaders. This is a special day. Thank you for doing what her life embodied, forging respect, friendships to create a better world, a more just world for ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren. Thank you.
Please welcome advisor of the Juanita Craft NAACP Youth Council, Linda Lydia.
Good evening. This is such a wonderful event, and Mrs. Craft would be so proud that this has been accomplished. And I have been the person who has carried forth her youth council over many years. And so I am proud to be standing here tonight in that capacity. Juanita Craft was the founder of the Dallas NAACP Youth Council, and she was a former Dallas City Councilwoman. And she had a creed about youth. And it is, everything comes down to the child. The child acquires the world. He or she carries on what we have left and what we have prepared for them. If we want to know who we are, just what we have accomplished, then just look at the children. In this bold tradition, we have tried to continue the legacy of Mrs. Craft, developing young people into community leaders and carrying her legacy forward. I'd like to introduce to you 3 of our officers of our Dallas NAACP Juanita Craft Youth Council. The first person I'd like to introduce, and if you'll come forward when I talk about you, please. These are some incredible young people. Layla George serves as our secretary. Layla is a senior at Barefoot Sanders Law Magnet at Townview, an extremely bright young lady. She serves as the link crew leader, mentor to underclassmen, social director for Townview Moot Court team, National Honor Society member, secretary, as I said, of the Dallas Youth Council. And this fall, she will be attending Dillard University on a full academic scholarship. The next person I'd like to introduce is a person that I would like for her to be my child, because it's just so hard to imagine somebody with all these talents, and her parents are here tonight, and they know I aspire to take her. The next person is Kendall Gale Washington, if you would come forward. You'll probably grow weary of me reading all the accolades about Kendall. At 16, she graduated from Dallas County Community College with an Associate of Arts and Science. She's now a senior at Bishop Dunn High School. She has her heart set on pursuing journalism and owning her own media and production company one day. Really interesting. We were volunteering over at Crossroads one day, and there was a lady there who was also working and sorting food, me and the kids, and Kendall struck up a conversation with her, and they started talking, and we later found out she was the director of the Crossroads Food Bank. And so Kendall immediately pulled the phone out, and she did a live Facebook feed and interviewed the lady. It's just incredible, the initiative that these young people have and the leadership skills that they possess. Let me go on with all these others. She's got so many. Kendall is a Jill of all trades, not a Jack, with the personality of a creative leader and the heart of gold. Kendall is a hardworking individual, which you can see by her school and community involvement. Along with her grades, she ranks at the top of her senior class while excelling in all of her extracurricular. She currently serves as the co-captain of the varsity cheer team. If she looks familiar, it's because she's always on TV. She's a scholar athlete. I mean, there's one thing after another. She won the DeSoto essay contest. MLK wrote and and presented and won that citywide. She is just everywhere. Lead cheer, varsity, president of African American Awareness. She also has achieved her bronze and silver awards as the Ambassador Girl Scout. Let's see, I think there's so many more things I could tell you. The last thing I do need to tell you, she joined the Texas Metro News. How long ago was it? About a year ago? And she is a writer. She writes articles on a regular basis in that publication. So if you happen to pick up one of those publications, you will see Kendall Washington as the writer and author of some of the articles that you'll see there. She has done an incredible journey for someone who's only 17 years old. But again, she carries that kind of legacy, that kind of commitment to community that we want our youth council to perpetuate. That was the legacy of Juanita Craft. And so, Kendall, thank you so much. And the last person is our president, Trinity Houston. Come on up, Trinity. Trinity is, she's a volunteer, regular volunteer for our Crossroads Community Service youth, and she also does voter registration. She has a passion for voter registration. Yeah, we did the, oh gosh, I hate to think about it. We did the Universal Soul Circus voter registration. But anyway, she's always there. She's been awarded the Dallas ISD Superintendent Scholar. She's a STEM Student of the Year, National Elementary Honor Society member, National Junior Honor Society member, Awana Club Meritorious Award, Girl Scout Silver Award. Again, these are young people who are carrying forth the torch and the legacy of Juanita Craft in a brave and respectful way. So thank you guys very much. And one of you want to thank it. Were you going to speak? One of you? Okay.
Hi again, my name is Kendall Washington, and I just wanted to share a few words about Miss Juanita Craft and how we can apply that to our lives today. A powerhouse, a force to be reckoned with. That was and is Juanita Craft. When she first came to Dallas, she worked as a maid at a hotel, but left her mark as a social activist. In 1935, Craft joined the NAACP, and in the years that followed, she started 182 rural NAACP chapters. Craft joined in demonstrations against the segregation of the University of Texas Law School and North Texas State University, each resulting in successful lawsuits in 1950 and 1955. In 1975, at the age of 73, she was elected to the Dallas City Council, where she spent 2 terms working to improve the status of Hispanic and Native Americans. Before being a politician, Juanita Craft always believed in the importance of voting. During her time, African Americans finally got the right to vote, and she believed that we as a people should act on it. What many whites called an opportunity, she, along with many others, called voting a human right as United States citizens. Lex Scott said it right. We can't hope that situations will change. We have to be active in getting candidates elected who will create change. Or, as I always say, be the change. Stop talking about what needs to be changed and do it yourself. And it's never too late. If Juanita Craft can create change in her 50s and older, I can do so at 17. And we in the Dallas Youth NAACP chapter are doing so by doing voter registration, going out in the community and doing service projects, and participating and working the election polls. So let's not let her hard work go to waste and be the change. Thank you.
I'm Chandler Vaughn with the Juanita Craft Foundation, Mrs. Craft's executive. An archive is one of culture's greatest achievements, along with libraries, public education, universities, medicine, democracy. An archive is an institution of care and patience. It is where the historical memory of civilization, as is present in materials and now oral histories, are cared for in perpetuity. Dallas Public Library and its archive is now the largest repository, the most important archive documenting the mid-20th century freedom movement from the bottom-up perspective of mobilizers, activists, and organizers. We stand right now with a remarkable opportunity with the Juanita Craft House and the partnership with the Dallas Public Library Archives to create a flow of material from this archive into the public history context in a way that we've now found with our research is probably the largest type of activity that's ever been done in the country. So in this way, all of us are breaking new ground. I want to thank all the speakers that presented this evening. I think that Harriet Earhart and Congresswoman Johnson said it properly, that most likely she is here watching over us. How could she not be? So I want to thank the library, Joe Gadis, the wonderful staff at the archives. This has been a long and it's been a complex process to bring an archive of this size, get it to session to this marvelous facility. This night marks a few benchmarks. Most likely, I think the one that will be most important over time will be that this library's archives have now been enriched and will continue to be enriched as more materials are brought into it. So again, thank you so much for coming. And I would like to introduce a last clip that demonstrates Juanita Craft. She was being interviewed by the Schlesinger Harvard Black Women's History Project in 1977. What you're about to hear is essentially an off-the-cuff statement by her when she was asked by the questioner, how do you view yourself as an American?
I am an American citizen. I happen to be of a darker hue than some other Americans. I don't believe in segregation, and I refuse to segregate myself, because that's the only way that I can say to the other fella, don't you segregate me. I lived under segregation for a number of years. I was not happy there because I saw the barriers that had been placed in front of me. I defy anybody to tell me that I can't think because I am a female. I defy anybody to say that I can't think because of my age. I'm proud of my age. And I've said to people oft time, don't criticize me because God has blessed me with age. I think that I have been left here to do something for somebody. And I think that I'm going to be about that chore. And I have them all laughing that you will never put me in a corner anywhere. I would build myself a round room first so there would be no corners. As I said earlier in this interview, I've always accepted challenges. I want to say that I've accomplished something. I accepted the challenge of fighting for the rights of my people. I have been quite a student of the Constitution of this country, and my belief is there. How can a person tell me that this Constitution provides for all people equal opportunities and then deny me of that privilege of preparing for these opportunities? So I have been in the struggle for a long time, the right to vote, the right to serve on juries, the right to everything in this country that every other American has. I don't see why that I should be denied these rights just because of the color of my skin.
Welcome into the reading room.